journalist. She belongs to an aristocratic family of poets. She was born in Rourkela and he spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad. So this story is an excerpt taken from the book titled Lost Spring: Stories of Stolen Childhood. So the title Lost Spring is itself a symbolic reference. It is a metaphor used for loss of childhood of millions of child labor in India. Spring is a symbol of joy, happiness, beauty and hope. Okay, so I am writing down in the board. Spring, as we all know, is a symbol of happiness, beauty and hope. Similarly, we can say that childhood can be called the spring of man's life. Okay, the childhood can also be called the spring of man's life. In this story, we will see the two characters, especially the two characters Sahibi Alam and Mukesh, have no spring in their life. Okay, because they were born in a very poor family. So now I am going to read the chapter and explain you. Before explaining the chapter, I will tell you the theme of the story. So what is the theme of the story? The story revolves around the plight of street children forced into labor in their early phase of life and denied the opportunity of schooling. Okay, so now I am going to write down the theme of the story. Theme of the story is the plight of street children forced into labor in their early phase of life and denied the opportunity of schooling. This is the theme of the story. So now I am going to start the story. I am going to read the story and give you the explanation. Sometimes I find the rupee in the garbage. So this story is about a young boy named Sahibi Alam. Why do you do this? I asked Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. So the author asks Sahib, as he sees every morning that he was scrounging for gold in the garbage dump. That means he was searching for something in the garbage dump every morning in their neighborhood, and he used to shuffle so minutely as if he will get something as precious as gold. So what is the meaning of scrounging? Scrounging means searching for. I am writing down the word meanings. Please note it down. Scrounging means searching. So every morning the poet see a young boy named Sahibi Alam. He used to search for something in the garbage dump of their neighborhood. He used to shuffle the garbage dump so minutely as if he will get something as precious as gold. So the writer says he searches for gold. This is a irony. This is an irony used by the author. Sahib left his home long ago. So Sahib and his family left home before many years. Set amidst the green fields of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. So he used to live in the green fields of Dhaka. They had left their home many years ago and he did not remember it anymore. It became a distant memory for him. Amidst means in the middle of. In the middle of. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. So once his mother told him that there were many storms that destroyed their fields and homes. That is why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. That's why they have migrated to this place and they have left their home in search of gold in the big city where they now used to live. I have nothing else to do, he mutters. Mutters means speaks in a low voice. Okay. Write down the meanings. Speak in a low voice. Okay. He mutters looking away. So Sahib spoke in a very low voice and he looked away and said that he had nothing else to do other than rag picking. Go to school, I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. Glibly means speaking in a confident way. Okay. Speaking in a confident way. So the author suggested confidently that he must go to school, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. So she realized immediately that her advice is meaningless for this poor boy. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. So the boy replied that there is no school in the area where he lives. And he also assures that when the school would be built, then he would definitely attend the school. If I start a school, will you come? I asked half jokingly. So the author asked him jokingly that whether he would attend the school if she would start a school in their locality. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. He smiled broadly and he assured that he would definitely come and attend the school. A few days later, I see him running up to me. So after some days, the author found him that he was running up to him. Is your school ready? And he asked the author that whether his school was ready or not. It takes longer to build a school, I say. So the author replied that it took a long time to build a school, feeling embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. So the promise became meaningless because the author had no intention to start a school. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. Abound means exist in large numbers, and bleak means you can say empty or weak. Abound means exist in large numbers, and bleak means empty, you can say empty or weak. So his world was empty as the promises made to Sahib was never been fulfilled. So Sahib was not hurt because he was used to such false promises as they existed in large numbers. After months of knowing him, I asked him his name. So after some few months, he asked his name. She asked his name, the author asked his name, or the narrator asked his name. Sahibi Alam, he announced. So the boy announced his name, that his name is Sahibi Alam. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the Universe, he would have a hard time believing it. So he didn't know what is the meaning of his name. So here the author used an irony. If he knew its name, Lord of the Universe, he would have a hard time believing in it. So if the boy came to know that the meaning of his name is Lord of the Universe, then he wouldn't able to believe it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the street with his friends. So he did not know the meaning of his name. His name was fully opposite to his life. He used to roam around the street with his friends just like a group of barefoot boys. Barefoot means wearing nothing in the feet. So they were so poor they could not able to afford any footwear, and they used to roam around in the street, and they appeared like the morning birds, and they used to disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. So the author over the months had come to recognize each of them as she had been seeing them for the past few months. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. So the author asked one of the boy that why he was not wearing any footwear. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf, he answers simply. So he answered that his mother did not get them down from the shelf. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another who is wearing shoes that do not match. So another boy replied that if his mother would get them down, would get the shoes down from the shelf, then he would not eager to wear it. When I comment on it, he supples his feet and says nothing. So when the author commented that why he was wearing different shoe on each foot, he just shuffles his feet and said nothing. That means he wanted to say that he did not want to wear any shoe. I want shoes, said a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. So the third boy spoke that he was very eager to get a pair of shoes which he could never own a pair throughout his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. So the author traveled across the country and she had noticed that children used to walk barefoot in cities and even on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. So the children reasoned that they were not wearing any footwear not due to lack of money, but being barefoot was a tradition for them. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. So what is the meaning of perpetual state of poverty? Perpetual state of poverty means never ending condition of being poor. Okay, so the author wondered that this is only an excuse to justify and to hide the fact that they were so poor and they could not afford their footwear. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple. So Udupi is a town in Karnataka. Udupi, a town in Karnataka. So the author remembered that a story has been narrated by a man from Udupi to him. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple. So when the man was a young boy, he used to go to school and he had to pass an old temple where his father was a priest, and in that old temple his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. So he used to stop at the temple and he used to pray to God to get a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in the year of desolation. Desolation means empty. So, after 30 years, the narrator, the author, visited the same town and the temple, and now the place was merely empty. Okay, in the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. So in the backyard, the new priest used to live, and red and white plastic chairs were kept there. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. So the author found that a young boy who was dressed in grey uniform and he was in school uniform wearing socks and shoes. He just arrived panting over there. He was taking short and quick breath, and he threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. So looking at that young boy, the author could remember the prayer of another boy who just prayed to the goddess that he should get finally a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. So he asked God that he may never lose this pair of shoes, and the goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys, like the son of the priest, now wore shoes. So now the young boys, after 30 years, the young boys, the son of the priest, they could afford or they could wear shoes now. The author wanted to say that the financial position of the priest had been improved over the last 30 years. But many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. So the condition of the priest had improved, the financial condition of the priest had improved over the last 30 years, but the condition of the rag pickers remain same. They could not able to afford a shoe also. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri. Acquaintance means contact. With my acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, 8 miles away from it metaphorically. So acquaintance means contact, periphery means outer area. Outer area. Metaphorically means symbolically. So the writer described the area where the rag pickers used to live. The name of the place is Simapuri. It is located on the outer skirts, or you can say the outer area of Delhi. It was mile away from Delhi. Metaphorically means symbolically. That means the environment of Simapuri was fully different from the environment of Delhi. Those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. So squatters means unlawfully occupying any unused land or building. So squatters means unlawfully occupying any unused land or building. So the people who used to live in Simapuri, they were actually rag pickers. They have migrated from Bangladesh back in 1971, and they have occupied the unused land of Simapuri. Saheb's family is among them. So Saheb's family also used to live over there. Simapuri was then a wilderness. Wilderness means wasteland. So during that time, Simapuri was a wasteland. It still is, but it is no longer empty. It was still a wasteland, but it has been occupied by a number of rag pickers who have been migrated from Bangladesh back in 1971. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin. Tarpaulin is just like a plastic heavy duty waterproof cloth. You can write it down. Tarpaulin means heavy duty waterproof cloth. Okay, so they used to live in a mud house with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, and devoid of sewage, drainage or running water. Live 10,000 rag pickers. So 10,000 rag pickers used to live in Simapuri. They used to live in a mud house with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, and they did not have any sewage, drainage or running water facility. That means they used to live in an unhygienic condition. They had lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits. Permits means legal document. Here permits means legal document. Okay, so they did not have any legal document with them. They were living there for more than 30 years without any identity, without any legal document that they have occupied that land. But with ration cards, they get their names on voter lists and enable them to buy grain. Though they did not have any identical proof, though they did not have any legal document, but they have their ration cards and voter card, and which help them to buy their grain from the ration. Food is more important for survival than an identity. So for them, food is the most important thing for their survival rather than their identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris, when I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. Tattered means torn. Okay, so tattered means torn. So when the author asked a group of women who were wearing torn saris that why did they leave their home in Dhaka, that is the beautiful land of green fields and river. So the women replied that at the end of the day they were able to satisfy their hunger and their families could sleep well at night, but they did not get any food and shelter in Dhaka because their green fields had been destroyed. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. So wherever they used to find the food, they used to set up their pitch means set up. Pitch means set up. And transit means, transit home means temporary homes. Okay, pitch means set up and transit means temporary home. So wherever they used to find food, they used to set up their tents over there, and that become their temporary home. Children grow up in them. Children used to grew up in the tent, becoming partner in survival, and they used to help their father and mother in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. The means of survival in Simapuri is rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportion of a fine art. It means that throughout the years, they become trained at rag picking. Garbage to them is gold. To them, garbage was precious as gold. It is their daily bread and roof over their heads, even it is a leaking roof. So why garbage to them is just like a gold? It was just precious as gold, because when they used to search in the garbage dump, they used to get many things. They used to sell those things and earn their bread, and they used to make shelter, they used to make a roof over their head, and even it is a leaking roof also. But for a child, it is even more. So for a child, the garbage dump is a means of, is more than a means of survival. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. Sahib says, his eyes lightening up. So Sahib was very happy to say that he sometimes find a rupee when he used to scrounge in the garbage dump. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. So whenever you will find a silver coin in the heap of garbage, you will not stop scrounging, because there is a hope of finding more silver coins in the garbage. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. So garbage has a fully different meaning to the children, okay, which is fully different from their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. This means garbage dump is a means of fulfillment of their dream. For the elders, it is a means of survival, and for the elders, obviously it is a means of survival, because they will sell the things which they used to get from the garbage dump, and they will have their means of survival, foods, clothing and shelter. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fence gate of the neighborhood club. So one winter morning, the author found Sahib, who was standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. So he was watching two young men who were wearing white dress, and they were playing tennis. I like the game, he hums. So he mutters in a very low voice that he used to like this game. Content to watch is standing behind the fence. So he was very happy, he was very satisfied to watch the game just standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. He also admitted, the author, that he used to go inside when there is no one in the club. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing, and the gatekeeper also used to allow him to use the swing which is present in the club. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirts and shorts. So Sahib was looking very inappropriate, looking very strange, because he was wearing a tennis shoes over his faded shirts and torn shirts and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in a manner of explanation. So he explained to author that someone had given them to him. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. Discarded means thrown away. So the author could understand that these shoes belong to some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear it because there was a hole in one of the shoes. So Saheb was not bothered to wear this torn shoe. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. So for him, he could not afford any shoe. So for him, it is a matter. But the game he is watching so intently is out of reach. But she could not able to, his desire to play tennis could not be fulfilled, though he is wearing a pair of tennis shoes. This morning, Saheb is on his way to the milk booth. So the author found Saheb, he was on his way to the milk booth, in his hand a steel canister. Canister means container. So he was on the way to the milk booth and he was carrying a steel container. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. So he said to the author, pointing the distance, that now he used to work in a tea stall. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals, and he used to get 800 rupees, along with he used to get all his meal throughout the day. Does he like the job? I asked. So the narrator asked whether he liked the job or not. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look, but his face has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. So the steel canister used to carry he used to carry the steel canister, which is very heavier than the plastic bag he used to carry over his shoulder. The bag was his. The bag was actually belonged to him. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop, but this steel container belonged to the man who is the owner of the tea shop. Sahib is no longer his own master. That means Sahib has lost his freedom. So in this story, we have seen the plight of a young boy named Sahib, and he denied the opportunity. He was denied the opportunity of schooling. So this is the end of the first story. In my next class, I will continue with the second story. Thank you. কতক্ষণ ছিল
40